A lot of people, Nick, think Empire Strikes Back is the quintessential Star Wars movie. I'm here to ask you, is this the best Star Wars movie? Is it better than Empire? And if it's not, why? Why are we so hung up on the past? I'm sure the reveal that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father was like a crazy twist, and they're like, this is absolute cinema, Martin Scorsese meme. But I do think we kind of have those goggles on of nostalgia and people just clinging to the past. And it's like, it'll never be the same. Like, I enjoyed that when I was 12 in theaters and I'm an old head and nothing's ever the same. So tell me, am I crazy for saying that Rogue One is my personal favorite Star Wars movie and I think the best executed Star Wars movie?
You're not crazy for that. And I will say this, in defense of those people and in defense of you. You know, we've talked about this on the podcast before, the whole like doing it first, do you get a little benefit of the doubt there? As far as best executed, I'm with you. I mean, I think Rogue One has every right to be in the arena and in the conversation for the best Star Wars movie ever made. In my mind, ooh. Yeah.
Hey, what's porkins, all you pork heads? Welcome back. It is Just Play It. I am your host. I am General Gordon. I am Rogue Popcorn Colonel Squadron of the movie theater. I'm just here. I'm hanging with my buddy. He could be my wingman anytime. That's the wrong movie. But it is Nick the Corn Dog Justice. He is from Kashyyyk because he is that freak. He is gobbling glizzies and he is deep frying your dog. You're done. And he's here. Welcome in, buddy.
Thank you. What an intro. I'll just say red corn dog standing by.
And red popcorn bucket standing by. Hey, happy Star Wars week, everybody. Annual tradition here. It is May 7th. We're a little bit past May the 4th, but we always got to throw in a Star Wars movie, and we're stoked to be here. We have been doing the standalone movies. Our year one, we did the animated Clone Wars movie. Then we hopped on the anthology series. So last year we did Solo, a Star Wars story. And guess what? This week, we are sticking with those Star Wars stories because, Nick, we are dipping our dogs into Rogue One, a Star Wars story from 2016. What a classic at this point. Kind of crazy. It's already been 9 years.
Weird to say for sure. Very excited for this one. This is one that I saw in theaters, loved it. Saw after it came out of theaters, loved it. But probably something I haven't seen for about 4 or 5 years on a rewatch. So when this came up on the docket, was really excited. We talk about this all the time. We love watching movies where we say, hey, we love this. Are we going to love it again now that we have this podcast? We're looking through a critical eye. We're trying to look for some issues. We know what pitfalls are out there. And so where does this rank among the pantheon of movies at this point that we have reviewed? So I was very excited to rewatch this one.
Absolutely. And Star Wars has had a shaky in-theaters run in the 21st century, I'll say, at least with general audiences. I feel like we liked Solo a lot. We gave that favorable reviews, and actually, it's a solid movie. It's a good movie. If you think that's a bad movie,
put it out there. Yeah, sorry.
Like
I don't apologize for it. It's a good movie.
I can't help you. I remember seeing this in theaters, and there was a lot of things that I found very enjoyable, and I didn't remember having any issues with the movie. So, like you, I was excited for a rewatch and to see, hey, was this overhyped in my head? Was I just happy to be at the theaters, or was this actually good? And we get to talk about that. Nick, this movie is going to go ahead and be directed by Gareth Edwards. He did Godzilla 2014. And I didn't know this. He's actually directing this year's upcoming Jurassic World Rebirth. So he's all about those big scary monsters. He did a movie called Monsters, which got him this directing job for Rogue One. So he knows how to deal with big epics, big monsters, big scary things that have to do with intimidation and violence.
Yeah, and a pretty controversial pick at the time. I believe, somebody who hadn't really touched the Star Wars world. You know how Star Wars fans are. We've discussed this in previous years, doing our May the 4th episodes, where Star Wars fans can be a little rabid, a little unforgiving, very particular. So this one was a little bit of a weird option for them to go with somebody who hadn't been involved in this world up to this point. So yeah, Gareth Edwards, he's coming in and he's saying, I'm going to give it my best shot.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him by name. Of course, I think the other Star Wars movie directors you can recognize by name, because you had J.J. Abrams, you had Ron Howard, of course, George Lucas, and Ryan Johnson, who didn't do too stellar with his showing of Star Wars, but I love Knives Out. I think he does great work elsewhere. But yeah, I didn't know Gareth Edwards by name. So seeing that he directed 2014's Godzilla, I was like, okay, all right. There's one thing I recognize you from. A name I do recognize, Nick, is who is on the track. We got Michael Giacchino, baby. He is just all over the place. We love the
Great
Giacchinos.
composer.
He's done the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, amongst other Marvel movies, including this year's upcoming The Fantastic Four: First Steps, which we announced earlier in the year that we are actually going to the theaters and watching and reviewing. It is my in-theaters pick. Very hyped for that. I loved his score from the trailer. He's done Matt Reeves' The Batman, Jojo Rabbit, The Incredibles, as well as a slew of other Pixar work, including his Oscar award-winning score for Up. What a tearjerker.
Absolutely.
Just like this movie, he samples the work of John Williams' original score for Star Wars, just as he did for his contributions to the Jurassic World movies, for John Williams' original work on those movies. And of course, Nick, he is a friend of the show because he did the music for My Brother the Pig.
You know what? It always comes around. We're just weaving this web every single week. Every single time we come out with an episode.
Always.
And we're just growing this family.
Return.
For friends of the show.
To Pig.
Everything really ties back, if you want to really get it all there, into My Brother the Pig. But no, great composer. Yep. I want to shout out a couple other ones. Sort of in the vein that you said, where he's sampling music that exists and bringing it back into the world. So War of the Planet of the Apes, where he brought back in a lot of those original scores, Star Trek, the list goes on. And he's a fantastic composer, a fantastic guy to choose to do the music here. And, John Williams is John Williams, but if you were going to go Star Wars non-John Williams, I mean, this is the guy.
Giacchino. He's doing it. He's killing it.
Yeah.
Nick, our writing credits, we got this is this Chris Weitz or Chris?
Probably Chris, if I had to guess.
It is Chris Weitz. Sorry, Chris. You know what? I didn't recognize a whole lot of what Chris Weitz did, but his first writing credit ever was Ants.
Oh, remember I saw Ants in theaters.
Remember Ants? It came out when A Bug's Life came out, and everyone's like, why is there two Ants movies coming out at the same time? Well, he wrote that. At least helped.
We had a family friend growing up. I don't know if you remember the Greens, but he worked on Ants, and we went and watched it in theaters and stayed for the credits to see.
He worked on Ants?
Worked on Ants. We stayed in the credits till we saw his name.
Also writing this or doing something for contributions to the story is Tony Gilroy, and he wrote a lot of the Bourne movies, Bourne Identity, Bourne Ultimatum, Bourne Supremacy. And our last writing credit here is actually going to be John Knoll. John Knoll is credited as a writer, and this is his only writing credit because his normal field of work is in visual effects. He's actually the chief creative officer at ILM. And a little over a decade ago, he pitched an idea to Kathleen Kennedy. He got really hung up on some of the text from the opening crawl from A New Hope. And he thought, I think this little sentence needs to be explored. I'll read it for you and for the audience. So in the opening crawl for A New Hope, that's when the yellow words start floating forward in the space. On the very first Star Wars movie ever, the opening crawl goes, "It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. And John Knoll looked at this line and said, hey, how come we haven't seen this play out? How this could be a whole movie in and of itself? And I'm going to run with it. Pitched it to Kathleen Kennedy. A week later, she said, you know what? This sounds super intriguing. I'm in. And all of a sudden, we got ourselves a movie. We got Rogue One off the ground, baby. That is crazy. What I want to ask you is, there's a lot of unexplained dots to dots that don't get connected in Star Wars. This is a pivotal moment. I actually really enjoy. I remember how much this is just setting up A New Hope, and it puts so much weight on A New Hope. It just sheds a whole new light on that very first movie based on what leads up to it from this idea. I thought that was so cool. So I had a question for you. Is there any kind of unexplained plot point in Star Wars that you would like to be seen as a feature film? I know this is a lot to kind of pop quiz you on. I'm throwing out a pop the corn talking point early, but just while we're talking about the story conceptualization, is there anything that would be interesting? I should have gave you all the opening crawls so you can get some ideas.
No, believe it or not, it's actually really interesting that Star Wars is starting to do this. Disney's starting to do this with a lot of their original series and things like that. So something that I always wanted to see, and I hope they explore more. And I think there's been talks of Hayden Christensen doing it, but really like the life of Darth Vader, post episode 3 into episode 4, really telling his story and how, because something I always thought with the original trilogy is, all right, Darth Vader is just this ambiguous bad guy. There's a lot of depth to him. They're really bringing up they brought in the Obi-Wan series. They've brought in something that I know I and a lot of other Star Wars fans have always wanted was the Boba Fett background origin. What happened to him after the Sarlacc pit. We got it finally.
I was thinking we should just have a movie that features Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit for 2 hours, kind of like that movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds, or Colin Farrell's Payphone. Just one of those enclosed movies where you're just
128 hours.
Yeah.
James
127.
Franco.
No, yeah.
It's 27. It could have been 28. We don't know.
If one more hour, he would have been dead, Nick.
It would have been there.
Yeah, just like have him just be in that sack, just like, I gotta get out of here for 2 hours. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd watch it. But man, I'm trying to think that is a lot to ask up front, but I think I'd like to see an R2-D2 epic. I think detailing his side of things, where he is post episode 3 into episode 4. It's so many questions. The C-3PO R2-D2 buddy adventure movie is something I'm into.
There's a lot of directions you can go with that question. It's pretty loaded. Rogue One took the best idea because it is kind of like, you don't think about it because the opening crawl just sets up the world for you. We call those instructions actually around here. And it just says, spies got the plans. And we're like, all right, cool. That's that. And we'll never see that again. Psych. We will in 2016. And it was awesome. I'd say if I were to answer that, maybe I was like, do I really want to see like a young Anakin and like focus on pod racing? Or do I want to see a Mace Windu come up? Or do I want to see a Yoda come up? Or
Qui-Gon?
I think they kind of touch upon some of this and some of the animated series like Tales of the Jedi, some of those short format ones. So there's a lot to kind of break down there. We got spoiled with Clone Wars.
They've been doing a good job of backfilling a lot of the stories, right? Like in Clone Wars, you get Darth Maul's story arc, which fans have been clamoring for ever since Phantom Menace. And they finally got he survived, what's going on with him. So there's a lot that can be backfilled. The good thing about Star Wars right now for Disney is there's so much that you can fit inside of the existing canon. There's so much content for them that they're able to do it. And you're seeing that, right, with Andor, and you're seeing that with Mandalorian, and you're seeing that with the Boba Fett and the Obi-Wan series and Ahsoka. And they're eating it up, and they should be, because this is the kind of content that Star Wars fans, you don't have to come up with some original new, Palpatine's back. Like, oh, okay. We there's enough there for us to consume. Just we can
rant on about the sequels. Nick, will the sequels ever be redeemable? Because I feel like the prequels,
No.
when the prequels came out, no one was about that. Let's not lie. No one was about them. And then as they aged and as we softened up and as we got these backfiller stuff like Clone Wars and comics and books and stuff that really fleshed out the characters, will the sequels ever be redeemed? It's hard to predict the future on that.
It really is hard to predict the future, but I'm going to say no, simply because of how bad it all went with the directors and the Rian Johnson versus J.J. Abrams, the way they rewrote the story, just how disconnected it is. It makes the whole thing feel lazy, and it's really unfortunate because I this is one of those examples, and Disney's done some good things with properties that they've bought, but they bought the Star Wars property and they're like, we have to just put movies out there. And I don't want to go on a rant on this trilogy because it's not what we're doing right now. It will probably come up at some point. But it really felt that those next three were so 7, 8, and 9 were so fan servicey as far as we're bringing back Skywalkers and Palpatines and Han Solo's here, and it's all connected to the previous story. It's like you didn't have to do that. Not in the way they did. It was very unnecessary. So 1, 2, and 3 were actually necessary to the original trilogy storyline. 7, 8, and 9 were just extremely unnecessary. I don't think time's going to be kind to them. No.
That is a key difference, I think, you just said there, because you had to have episodes 1, 2, 3, because you said, well, originally when Star Wars came out, it was just called Star Wars, and in the opening crawl, the chapter and A New Hope subtitle was not there. That got added for the 1981 re-release of the movie, when I think they thought, all right, we're going to make this like a whole thing. So yeah, when they established that it was episode 4 back in the 80s, then you are kind of setting yourself up for the audience. Like, we owe them a 1, 2, 3. And no matter how it comes, you're going to have to accept it. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the 7, 8, 9 was kind of just like, let's keep this train going, when it's like, we could have gotten away. There's so many people and writers and creatives that kind of get frustrated that we're so focused on the Skywalker saga. And like, there's so many eras or different things to explore in the universe of Star Wars. So it did seem like it was a little bit of like, let's do it again.
Yeah. And it's just the way they went about it, as far as I'm concerned, was really upsetting. Again, not to rehash anything, but bringing in Han Solo just to die like a bitch, bringing in Luke Skywalker to just sort of disappear into the ether. When Leia started flying, I mean, there were just so many things.
The Superman fly in The Last Jedi was...
It's just through there were so many things that didn't... You could continue the Skywalker saga if you really, really want to, but it was just so disrespectful to the canon.
It kind of got a little bit Fast and Furious like, because when they're always
That's
like,
a great...
Kylo Ren is Han Solo's son. It's like, we don't have to keep it so related to the OG guys. We can do something new and exciting and different. So
yeah. In episode 9, when the opening crawl just announced Sidious is back,
somehow
you're like, I had never been so like done. Like, in an opening crawl, just said done.
Rough. All right, we're not here to drone on about the sequels. Nick, who is in front of the camera for this movie?
Our main stars here, we're going to name a few, and there's even more than this, but our top 3 build here is going to be Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, and Alan Tudyk. We'll see some other great friends here. It's a great cast.
Pretty like spoilers for this. I don't think there's one character that was supposed to be likable and ended up being disliked. I feel like there's always a character in Star Wars that the writers were like, we're going to make this one be the funny one, or this is going to be or it's just a neutral addition and people just get racist out of nowhere.
Are you throwing shade at my boy Jar Jar right now?
No, there's always like a character that you're like the people are going to love this, and then they hate it. So I feel like C-3PO
They're
is
just made for merch.
A little bit of annoying. Jar Jar Binks obviously was very controversial and also annoying. And the sequels, like, they got really mad at that Asian chick for no reason because she was Asian, I guess. I don't know. They just hate. They
She
just
had that. Well, her and Finn had that weird arc where they were like, "We have to free the animals." It was like, Why am I watching this?
it was a dumb arc, but they took it out on like her race, and it's like, all right,
I didn't know that, but if you did that, then what are you doing? Come on.
this movie. We're all over the place. They pull a Fast Five. They're like, we're bringing in a Han, a Tyrese. We're bringing in The Rock. Like, it's very multi-ethnic. It's family up in this B. And I think it was very well received as far as like the characters. I feel like everyone in this movie could be a fan favorite. I don't think there was anybody in this movie that was unlikable. And if they were supposed to be unlikable because they're a bad guy, they did a good job because the performers did really good and the casting was great. So I just want to shout that out. Casting.
Yeah. There wasn't, like you said, just backing you up here, there wasn't a single character in the film where I went, that movie could have been fine without them in it. You know, everybody was there for a purpose, for a reason, and was cast very well.
Lord knows we've seen that before. Nick, the budget for this movie is a pretty hefty boy. I want to say it's $175 million less than Solo, if I'm going off memory. Maybe Solo. No, Solo was 275. So this one is 200 million, and Solo got an extra 75 million. Solo got about 142% back. It got 392 million at the box office. But Nick, what are we dealing with on this one?
We have eclipsed the $1 billion mark. $1.85 billion return on Rogue One. And I didn't do my fact checking on this, but I'm almost positive this might be the first $1 billion return in Star Wars history.
The Force Awakens was.
Did that get to $1 billion?
Yeah, that hit a Billy.
That was all hype.
That was hype. Is this our first Billy? I think this is our first Billy.
This is our first Billy for sure.
That's crazy. But I was very intrigued by this because it hit that $1 billion mark. So Nick, I just want to hit you with some stuff real quick. Our domestic box office and our international box office are pretty neck and neck. Domestic is going to bring in 532 million, international 523 million. So domestic is 50.4% of its gross, and international was 49. And I said, good for domestic. Good for domestic. Good for us for showing up.
Good for us for spending our hard-earned money.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because usually when we get these big action movies that have worldwide appeal, you know, mostly the money's coming from the international because obviously there's way more countries. We have a little bit more of a bias because it's from America and we know these movies well and it's in English as the first language. So there's definitely like a case for us that we should be seeing it more, but that's usually not the case. Nick, I want to hit you with some numbers here of other movies that have also hit a Billy and just kind of break down their percentages. They're going to get a little bit more drastic as we go. Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4, they're both around that 40% domestic and 60% international. Spider-Man Far From Home, we're looking at 35% versus a world international 65%. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, 31% domestic, 69% international. Same
the UK.
Same is going to go with Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. That's also 3169.
That eclipsed a Billy, huh?
That eclipsed a Billy, and it was very popular abroad. What was also popular abroad and not super surprising was The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. We're looking at a clean 30-70 split there for North America, US, Canada versus the world. Despicable Me 3 hit a Billy, and 25% of the money came from domestic, while 75% came from international. And Nick,
Beedoo, my friend. Wow.
The final one that I just pulled from a hat, there's a bunch that actually touched a Billy and have a lot of different variations, but Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, 23% domestic, 77% from the world. Baby.
Wow.
People love pirates.
People love these properties. I think something that was very apparent in those, what you were saying, is they're all parts of properties, right? There's a hype around it. There's a culture around it. There's a fan base existing around it. And so kind of going to what you were saying earlier, where You have this fan base and you have this content and people are craving it. So just make good stuff. Just make good stuff.
I do want to shout out an American movie that also hit a billy, that also had more than half of its money come from domestic. Nick, one of your favorite movies ever, The Dark Knight, 53% of its gross came from domestic and 47 from international.
Yeah, I mean, I was a midnight release guy on that one. So go Christopher Nolan, go Christian Bale. That had quite a bit of hype with Heath Ledger dying. So yeah,
and it's just a fantastic movie. So
it's probably one of the best.
Nick, for Rogue One, our Billy boy, our first Billy ever, I just want to shout out some notable international markets. Just a little pop quiz for you and for the folks at home. Who do you think provided the most money for the international based by country?
I mean, numbers game, you got to think China.
Well, let me know if you lock in an answer, buddy.
For the number one, I'm going to go China.
That's a smart play, especially because they did get two very famous Chinese actors in this movie for that appeal for China. But Nick, just going to ramp my way up to number one. So notable international markets, Australia added 37 million. Japan adds 39 million. France adds another 39 million. Germany, going to go ahead and tack on a 46 million. China, going to hit us with 69 million. But Nick, the top country was actually the UK, 88 million added. Makes sense. I think Gareth Edwards is British. Felicity Jones British. There's a lot of British actors in a lot of Star Wars in general. Ever since the beginning, there's been a lot of British actors.
And Star Wars is obviously very Western, right? And so the UK has a ton of that. So yeah, that checks out. Good for the UK. Good for the UK.
Yeah, but you said China earlier, and that's kind of a disappointing number from China, because typically what we're looking to get is something in the 9-digit range. We're trying to get like an extra 100 million. So just to give some relevance there for Chinese movies, for domestic movies, do you want to take a wild guess of what the best performing foreign to China movie was?
I have to guess it's like a Marvel
it's gonna
movie.
Be pretty
so
obvious.
Endgame.
It's going to be pretty obvious. Avengers Endgame is the best performing foreign movie to China, because that tacked on $632 million from China alone.
Yeah, it checks out.
Other movies would pray for a worldwide gross for that, but that's China alone on Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, we talked about it in our season 1 China episode about, Iron Man and how Disney sort of bent over backwards to make sure those movies were approachable for the Chinese audience and, well, not approachable for the Chinese audience, available for the Chinese government, we'll say. I wonder if Rogue One got a little bit of a limited release because they're like, wow, this movie is about people really sacrificing to fight down a tyranny. I wonder why the CCP wouldn't love that.
I will add on to that just because you mentioned it. So Donnie Yen, who is a Hong Kong actor who appears in this film, he lent his opinion on why Star Wars films don't do well in China. And this August 2018 Business Insider article featuring Yen's words, he states, Chinese audiences didn't grow up with Star Wars culture, so unfortunately it didn't work. Marvel is a lot easier to understand. Star Wars, there's a whole universe out there. Marvel, from the costumes to the music to the idols to the stars, it's much easier to close the gap between the film itself and the audience. And I kind of agree. I feel like for Star Wars, since they are so hyper-focused on the Skywalker saga, we grew up loving Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa. And it's so tied to those three and Chewbacca and Yoda. So it is, if you didn't grow up with it, you're kind of just like, I don't know. Whereas superheroes comics have been out since the 60s. So
it's a good
Pirates.
Point. I didn't think about that when, as far as when the United States or when China really started opening up their theaters to Western media. I didn't even think about that. Cause in the 70s, 80s, even 90s, like that wasn't really a thing. It's more recent than I like to think. So yeah, they probably don't have that love and affinity for Star Wars. Was Argentina on the list by chance?
Probably.
Okay. Just wondering if there was any Cerveza Cristal ads. Cerveza Cristal. Cerveza Cristal. Thrown into Rogue One.
Oh God, I hope so. But just to round out China and its impact and not impact on this movie, the second most profitable U.S. movie was actually Fate of the Furious. China gave $390 million to that. And
yeah, brother.
And then just another random Billy guy, Jurassic World in 16th place for highest Chinese market American movie, 228 million from China. So those are the numbers you're trying to hit. So when you only hit 69 million from China, it's kind of disappointing, especially when you made the effort to include two of the biggest Chinese actors in your movie.
Yeah, but I think it's like I'd guess maybe. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the movie with the 7 rings.
The 10 rings? Shang-Chi?
The 10 rings. Shang-Chi. Yeah. Thank you. Shang-Chi. I'd imagine that probably did pretty well, but
I don't think it got released.
One of the big challenges is that the source material is seen as racist. The movie, as well as the comics, are based on a fictional character from a British novel known as Fu Manchu. And then Beijing, which already censors movies, is very sensitive right now about anything that projects a negative image of Chinese people.
But I think what for me, I think what it shows, and this goes back again to our China episode, is you don't have to pander to a tyrannical government to make money on your film. You don't need to squeeze that extra $40 million out of $1 billion movie to try and appease bad people. Make your movie, make it what it is.
Whoa. What about just the regular Joe Schmoes of China?
I'm all for the Joe Schmoes of China. I'm saying to appease the bad people in the Chinese government.
I would agree with that sentiment because you don't want to bend over backwards for something when it's not going to add heart or authenticity to your movie or just add to the story. You're just kind of adding it so that it's going to get a bigger market release, just like how you mentioned when we talked about in Iron Man 3 in the China episode when they added that scene of Dr. Wu, who was the only surgeon in the world that can help Tony Stark out, even though he's the smartest man ever. But Nick, the counter argument is that China is so deep when it comes to movies, because I need to shout this out. This is fucking crazy. Nick, the biggest performance for the Chinese market, like the biggest grossing movie that China gave money to, is actually a Chinese movie, and it's actually still in theaters right now from its early 2025 release. It's called Nerja 2. This is a sequel. It's an animated movie. Looks very Illumination-esque. It's about, I think, this kid that fights gods and demons and something. Nick, 98% of its gross came from China itself, and Deadline reported last month it became the 5th all-time highest grossing movie in the world at $2.1 billion. It passed The Force Awakens, which was at $2.08 billion. And it's just behind Titanic, Avatar: The Way of Water, Avengers: Endgame, and the OG Avatar. 98% of its gross came from China, and it hit $2 billion. That's how strong the Chinese market is.
Did it though?
It did.
Did it though? I mean, maybe it did.
No, I'm reporting to you it did.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the reported numbers are like, hey, that's a Chinese company, and every Chinese company has to be owned by the CCP. That's kind of a part of being a Chinese company. I'm not doubting that. Look, I'm not saying the Chinese market is bad. And
we're not saying that they're making up numbers. What is this? The Church of Scientology talking about Battlefield Earth?
Yeah, there's no child labor happening in China. But what I'm saying is, I'm not opposed to like the Chinese market or anything. I just don't want people to change their work to get into the Chinese market. So if
big corporations like Disney, when they see that, they're like, I don't know. I feel like we kind of got to go for that.
Oh, Dude, they're so into it.
Yeah.
They're so into it.
It's a business.
Yeah,
It's a business.
it is.
But yeah, that's crazy.
That is.
There's not one Star Wars movie in the top 20 foreign films for China. The closest they got was The Force Awakens at $124 million.
That's their top 20?
In the top 20 for China's foreign movies, there's no Star Wars movie. There's like a couple Fast and Furious. There's a couple Jurassic Parks, World. There is Marvel movies. There is animated movies like Zootopia and Despicable Me or whatever. But in the top 20 for China's top grossing movies, there's not one Star Wars movie. It's just not their jam. It's not their jam. It's our jam because we're talking about it this week. But I just thought I had to throw that out. And sorry to get all nerdy and nerd out with the numbers and markets, but I feel like we don't do that a whole lot. And Star Wars is a major franchise, and I think it's interesting to kind of break that down and see why.
It's a global phenomenon. It is.
Not in China, but it is a global phenomenon, and it's close to our hearts, Nick. So let's see if this one was close to our hearts. Let's see if it was good. We got to hit ourselves with the pre-pops. This is our gut reaction scores, what we thought of the movie, fresh off a watch. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and we're going to see if our gut reaction scores are going to line up with our final sober post-pop clarity mind. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you do. All right, Nick. If you have your pre-pop score ready, I would love for you to reveal it to the crowd on 3. 1, 2, 3. Show the crowd. Nick, you are hitting Rogue One with a 9.0. Hell yeah, brother.
Sure are. And James, I see that you have high 8s, maybe 9.
With a little eyeball emoji looking at it.
Yeah, a little eye emoji, a little...
I like that little character to my pre-pop. I got a whiteboard. I can have fun with this marker. Nick, can you just summarize your thoughts? Why are you thinking 9? Why is this so high?
You know, I was looking through our rankings, and we haven't gone through this in a long time, what our rankings mean, but we decided this early in the podcast that an 8 is a movie popcorn. It's a shared bag, but a 9 is that buttery, good popcorn, that solid, that stuff you just can't get bucket. At home. You can't.
It's a bucket of movie popcorn. That's all for you. You don't have to share it.
Yeah, you just can't put it down. You've eaten it before the preview stop, and really, that's what this is for me. I go, this really was that kind of movie on my gut reaction, so I had to give it a 9. I thought high 8s, but I thought, no, man, this is one of those movies. So that's where I came from. James, you said high 8s, maybe 9. Why are you on the fence here, and why'd you give it that rating?
I'm on the fence just because I don't want to be too biased. I don't want to be too just up in the culture that like I just like these kind of movies. I think like Marvel movies. I know some of them are not the greatest in the world, but there are some that I could just watch over and over and over again because I enjoy the action sequences or the performances or just the straight up visuals. And this one I think is a really good movie, a really, really good movie, a solid Star Wars movie. But I think we still owe it to the audience to break it down, kind of talk about it, see if it does deserve that crispy, buttery, salty, not shared bucket of a 9.
Well, you'd be a fool if you thought we weren't going to be talking about it.
Nick, I'm going to read this log line and we will get into plot talk, really streamline it. There's a lot to go on in this plot, and I think we're just going to talk about more so the impact and the legend of this movie in the Star Wars Skywalker saga and its place in it. Nick, our log line is: in a time of conflict, a group of unlikely heroes band together on a mission to steal the plans to the Death Star, the Empire's ultimate weapon of destruction. Holy cow. This is hitting close to home, close to Yavin, and we're going to be babbling and gabbing about this in Plot Talk.
Plot Talk.
So, Nick, this is a perfect time to watch this movie because season 2 of Andor is currently out, which is hyper connected to Rogue One. Rogue One is a fantastic movie, so it only makes sense that Andor is fantastic. However, Nick, we specifically designed this recording to be done before we watch Andor season 2 because we didn't want to have that impact our review of this movie because we're trying to focus on the movie itself. But just throwing it out there, we didn't watch season 2 upon this recording just to make sure we came in fresh and didn't have a crazy perspective of like, oh, that's so crazy because it's going to lead into the movie. No.
Yeah, I spoiler alert, I did just rewatch Andor season 1. Then I watched Rogue One, and now we're here on the podcast pre-season 2. So here we go. But yeah, let's jump into plot talk here, James. Like you said, we're going to streamline it. Main plot of this movie here, we got the Empire. They're cooking something up, James. It is literally the Death Star. And that's going to bring us to Jyn Erso. She's got a complicated past and a famous dad, very smart dad, engineer, scientist, well-respected guy. And turns out he is the brains to this Death Star, but not by his own design. It's one of those classic cases of super smart scientist, engineer getting captured, enslaved, and being forced to create the plans to this Death Star for the Empire.
So Galen Erso is the scientist, and we got to shout out Mads Mikkelsen. He's the friend of the show. He was in last year's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. He played Dr. Voller, I believe. And yeah, he gets manipulated. He thinks he's building some sort of energy efficient something, some boring crap. But ends up creating the best, most efficient weapon in human history, known as the Death Star. And he's going to be our Oppenheimer of this movie. He's going to make something world-changing, but so catastrophic. His daughter, Jyn Erso, this is Felicity Jones, starts out as a kid, very reminiscent of A New Hope, and very, very focused on kind of like Luke, his farm life. There's a little blue bantha milk out there. There's moisturizers. Mads Mikkelsen is just saying, look, it's not much, but it's honest work. Leave me alone. And then the wife brings out a gun. It's like, you're not going to take him. I'm going down with a fight. She gets shot and killed. Galen gets captured. And Jyn is instructed to run away. And Saw Gerrera is going to kind of smuggle her out of where she's at. And then she's going to grow up in a life of war and rebellion. So she's kind of got it in her blood, but she's not looking for that. She's just trying to have a quiet life. But guess what, Nick? She's going to get pulled back into the rebellion from
always do.
A group of folks. They come in. I think this is when we first are introduced to K2SO, who I remember being one of my favorite characters from this movie. This is a giant droid. He's an Imperial droid, very menacing and tall. And this is the one voiced by Alan Tudyk. I fucking love Alan Tudyk, by the way. He's one of those guys that just
best role for Alan Tudyk. Steve the Pirate from Dodgeball. That's just hands down. This is the kind of guy he is.
It's hard to top. He does a really good job. And I like that.
Fantastic.
He's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. And I like that he's a voice actor. He does a lot of voice acting on top of on-camera acting. So I like that he decided that he should kind of do a little bit of a British accent, because a lot of the Empire is British, and like there was always British actors being the evil guys. So he's like, oh, it makes sense if the droid had a British accent, but he's reprogrammed. So he's a little sassy, you know? And I don't know if it's the droid dryness and it just comes out sassy, or if he's legitimately sassy.
I think it's column A, column B. They kind of reused this formula in Mandalorian season 1.
With Taika,
that droid,
Waititi's one. Yeah.
Yep. You know, with the droid been reprogrammed, kind of funny, little dry, doesn't quite pick up on the social cues because it's a droid.
Sassier than L3 from Solo. L3 was kind of crazy.
L3 banged Lando, so
horniest droid, I'll say.
Absolutely. But like you said, Jyn Erso, she's not really looking to be a part of this war. She's seen too much. She's a little jaded. She's a little like, I'm just trying to do my own thing at this point in the game. Like, whatever you fat cats in your wars doing, like, you guys have fun. I'm doing my thing.
So they capture her because they want to get in touch with Saw Gerrera.
Forrest Whitaker, BT Dubs.
Forrest Whitaker, friend of the show via Battlefield Earth, by the way. A lot of friends of the show on this one. But they want to get in touch with Saw Gerrera, and they also are trying to find Galen Erso, and they know she's related. So she's getting pulled in by K2SO and Cassian Andor. They're trying to take down this Death Star and see what it's all about. And Nick, I want to throw out something that I really loved what this movie did. There's this awesome moment when they establish the scale of the Death Star, and it's all in one little tiny sequence because you have a TIE fighter fly by, and you're like, all right, that's like a little personal jet, like a personal private jet, like if I were to make a real world comparison. And then the TIE fighter flies by a Star Destroyer, which is those giant triangular cruisers, you can call them, and those dwarf the TIE fighter. And it's really cool because it comes out of the shadows like a shark, and it's illuminated by like some sunlight, you're thinking, coming from around the planet. But then it's revealed that it's not floating into the light. The giant satellite on the Death Star is retracting into its main spherical shape, and it's revealing the sun because that giant satellite cast a fat ass shadow on the Star Destroyer. And then you look at the Star Destroyer, and it looks like a sprinkle to a basketball. It's a great way to establish scale, which I'm sure they were impressed with his work on Godzilla, I can only assume. But man, what a way to just like set up. What a visual. What a visual. I'm with you, Gareth. I like this right now.
I'm almost positive this is like almost the exact same concept, obviously not done as well visually, like you said, of that scaling, but it's the same sort of concept that the first shot after the first crawl of A New Hope has.
Yeah, the first shot is a Star Destroyer chasing down the Tantan 4 or whatever. I don't know. Forgot what the ship was called. And it's a big triangular shape floating over the camera. And Gareth Edwards does a similar thing here. There's no crawl in this movie, by the way, because that was reserved for the main saga. But there's these light shadows that form the shape of a triangle, and it looks like it kind of mimics that same shot in the beginning of A New Hope. So there's just a lot of homages to this, but I appreciated the establishing the scale, because the first time I see the Death Star in Star Wars is in A New Hope, and someone says, we're coming up on a moon. And then Obi-Wan says, that's no moon. And then it's a big ball in the distance, but you don't understand the size of it. This one really establishes scale very well. It's very efficient, and it's attention to detail. The lighting was sick, because like when it retracts, you're not only revealing the Star Destroyer, but you're revealing the whole backdrop of the Death Star, because it looks like it's in a room all of a sudden. But no, it's just the back exterior that is dwarfing this ginormous thing that's like the size of 100 cruise ships.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I live in 2025. I still don't grasp the size of the moon. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, how big is the moon? Like, pretty big, I'd imagine. But like, grasping the idea of like the size of the moon is like, that seems pretty big. But you're right. Once you scale it down to like this Star Destroyer, that you're like, oh wow, it's a big ship.
Really cool.
And then you go, whoa. Yeah, I agree with you.
So they're trying to find Saw Gerrera, and there's also going to be this de facto Imperial pilot named Bodhi. This is Riz Ahmed, and he's going to try and find Saw Gerrera because Galen Erso had a message for Saw, and Saw he's a character who is established in the Clone Wars, but he is looking merled. He is looking haggard. He is looking Merle Haggard at this point. Years and years of fighting the Empire has just really done a number on him. He's missing a leg. He needs some breathing apparatus. He's a little mentally woo-hoo because Saw Gerrera is so far gone off the deep end. He has a lie detecting octopus in his basement and makes Bodhi go through the lie detector test to see if he's telling the truth or not. See if he's a spy. He's paranoid.
Hey, James, question for you. If you had a lie detecting octopus, would you not use it to make sure people who came to you? Yeah, you'd have to at every step of the way.
Only time we see this octopus that detects lies in this movie. Maybe it was a bigger part of a different script, but I thought that was funny. But he's living on a moon in the Jeddah system, not a Volkswagen Jeddah, but Jedha, Jedha. So they're in the city of Jedha. Cassian and Jin and K2, they're rolling up. They're trying to find Saw Gerrera, and then Bodhi's being brought in to Saw at the same time. And we're going to have a clash of our main group right here. So this is where we're going to meet the rest of our crew. We got Shirut and his homie Baze. Now,
Baze Malbus, man. Gee.
I remember watching this in theaters, and I thought, like, when they ran into him at first, when they ran into Shirut at first, he's a blind guy. He's described as a monk-like warrior, and Andor says that they're the guardians of the wills. So just a quick summary of what that's all about. George Lucas, when he originally planned Star Wars, he was going to have the stories be narrated by these extremely wise race of aliens called the Wills, which is Whills. The original title was actually The Adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken by Journal of the Wills, which is where a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away comes from. It was supposed to be from the point of view of someone telling a story and sharing it with their homies.
It was almost Mad Maxed there.
It was Mad Maxy, kind of like the Watcher from Marvel. Yeah, just like we've seen all this stuff, and here's how this story unfolds. George Lucas ultimately went against kind of focusing on the Wills and that point of view and that storytelling device, and just made it like a straight up story. But he kept a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So Shirut and Baze, they are residents of Jeddah, and there was this Kyber temple there, Kyber crystals. They power up lightsabers and they power the Death Star. So they're just down there, and the Empire has taken over the city, and they're mining, and so they're kind of just like they're throwing rocks at a rock wall. You know, like there's not much you can do. They're trying their best to uphold the culture and the religion, but there's not much you can do. But when they run into Shirut at first, I was like, all right, that was kind of like a rando guy. But then when they get into a tussle with the Empire, he shows up, and then I remember watching this in theaters when he gets into the zone and he starts sensing where people are. He's not Jedi, but he's Force sensitive. I remember thinking, I am going to love this guy because he daredevils the situation. And
he's blind. I don't think we've said that yet.
No, I said that. Yeah. He's blind.
Yeah. He daredevils the shit out of it, dude.
He daredevils these guys. And kind of like the current MCU incarnation of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, and Daredevil Born Again. His vision is progressing wildly. Like his vision is better than people with 20/20 vision for a blind man. He's almost got spider sense, you know. So
he's got like he could go like 3 blocks away.
Yeah,
with his senses, hearing, smells.
I think Matt Murdock is Force sensitive. Yeah, because Shirut's able to sense the Kyber crystal necklace that Jin is wearing. And then when he shows up with his walking stick, he just starts going crazy on these stormtroopers. And then we get the classic, a bunch more show up around the corner, but then Baze with that blaster turret minigun or whatever that is. I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun duo. I like these guys.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The dichotomy of that duo is really fun. You have more of, like you said, that Force sensitive, uses his senses, maybe a little more thoughtful. And then Baze is a little more of your brawler, heavy weapons, go in, blast them. It's a very good relationship that those two have. And they're really shown to be like best buds. Like these guys go to war together with completely different outlooks on how to do things. And so the whole crew we've assembled up to this point, right? Bodhi and K2SO and I want to say Andor, but Cassian is his name. We call him Cassian.
He is known by Cassian in this movie, and he's known by Andor in the show.
I know. I always want to say Andor, but then Shirut. It's just such a good crew. I think the chemistry they built with these backstories and this group, and really what the movie's called Rogue. These are a bunch of rogue people. So Rogue One is sort of. It ends up being the name of, the ship that they run into, and it ends up, each one of them are rogue, but they are rogue and they are one together as a crew. And I just
I
think
get it.
I know it's beautiful. Like it works so well, and they set it up so well. That I know it's very obvious to call it that, but it works on a lot of different levels. And I think they did such a good job setting up this group.
I have another thing to add when we finally get to that moment, but I just want to shout out. Can I shout out another friend of the show that you absolutely would not even know he's there? But I got to shout out Warwick Davis. He plays this little guy who's on Saw Gerrera's team. He plays a guy named Weeteef. He's like an alien, so he's under prosthetics. But Warwick Davis, he played Weasel in Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Hell yeah.
Warwick Davis, he has a knack for showing up in Star Wars films with character names beginning with a W because he, like I said, he was Weasel in Solo. Fun fact, his first acting credit ever was playing Wicket, the Ewok, in Return of the Jedi. And an even better fun fact, and maybe one of the solid W's, if I may, for Rise of Skywalker, his credited name for Rise of Skywalker was Wicket W. Warwick. So they're just like, it's the last hurrah. Let's just give him the quick WWW, throw this guy in here. Warwick Davis, he's in here.
I love when they do stuff like that.
That's fun. That's a fun little Easter egg. He's part of Saw's like extremist team. So they bomb a tank, an Imperial tanks. Very, very warlike, very World War II like, Saving Private Ryan almost type of scene. There's like children crying. Jin goes to save her. It's not going to fucking matter because they're going to do a test run of the Death Star. One of the best working actors today, but Ben Mendelsohn, he plays Director Krennic, and the Death Star is his project. He's the one who kidnapped Galen, and he's all about showing off his shit. We also have CGI Tarkin in here. General Tarkin makes an appearance, which was maybe one of the first deep fake jobs that Star Wars did. I mean, Star Wars for sure. Yeah. Maybe in cinema history, one of the early, at least one of the like palatable ones, I'll say.
Yeah,
because we've had like de-aging before, but this is a different actor playing the guy who originally played him.
We've heard word of rumors circulating through the city. Apparently, you've lost a rather talkative cargo pilot. I suggest we solve both problems simultaneously with an immediate test of the weapon.
Yeah, they want to do a test run on the city of Jeddah.
Big problem.
Narrow escape there. We're going to get off Jeddah. We have assembled our crew. We have the Guardians of the Wills. We have a defected Imperial pilot of Bodhi. We have a little bit of a rogue rebel in Cassian and a sassy droid and a lady that doesn't quite want to be there, but she got dragged into it. When she met up with Saw, she saw the message. This is where Galen says that he put a fault in the Death Star and that one blow to the reactor and the whole system goes down. That's how you said it. The whole system goes down.
One blast to the reactor module and the whole system goes down. That's how you said it. The whole system goes down.
Get to work fixing their comms. The whole system goes down. Yeah, but James, we have a problem.
Cassian doesn't believe her. And again, I don't want to have Andor cloud my opinions, but he's
been burned.
He's been burned. I see the correlation because his intro, he's still raw. He still guns down stormtroopers and guns down a contact because it's going to burn him. So it's like, that makes sense because I've seen the show, and he doesn't trust anybody. He has no reason to trust anybody. So I thought this is good. This is like Han Solo shooting Woody Harrelson in Solo. I thought, again, this is good for Star Wars. Pop off shots, guys.
But James, we have a bigger problem, actually. Our biggest problem is that the plans to the Death Star that we need to get, they're in a locked and heavily guarded Imperial base on Scarif.
Shit.
This big tropical fortress. How are we going to do this? How are we going to storm Scarif? Because I'll tell you what, the rebellion's leaders, they don't want to act on this information. They don't believe in us. It's too risky. It's too uncertain.
Just to go over like the rebel guys, we do get Mon Mothma is in there, Bail Organa is in there, and everyone's kind of poo-pooing the plan, saying it's like suicidal. So when they decide like, hey, like we're rebels, like sometimes rebels got to rebel against rebellion, you know? So they're going to go out there.
Gotta go rogue.
And then when they're like, hey, like, what are you doing? What ship is this? And Bodhi names the call sign as Rogue One. And then the guy's like, Rogue One, what is that? And it's a cool connection to Empire because there is the Rogue Squadron.
Commander Skywalker, do you copy? This is Rogue 2. This is Rogue 2.
And you'll notice that there is no Rogue One in Empire. There's only Rogue 2, 3, and 4. So you're thinking, wait, was this planned? It wasn't, because technically there would just be Rogue Leader. So like there's Blue Leader and then Blue 2, Blue 3 and whatever, and Red Leader, Red 2, Red 5. Red 5 gets gunned down in this movie.
Poor Red 5.
Red 5! I need help!
Bodhi's an Imperial pilot, so maybe he doesn't know like the call signs. He knows there's a Rogue Squadron, and he just was like, we're Rogue One. And then I was like, what are you talking about? Maybe Rogue was never a squadron back then. Maybe it was inspired by Rogue One. And then if he wanted to just kind of like make up a fake name, either A, he doesn't know the rebel call signs, or B, maybe there was a Rogue Squadron and he says, well, I know there's a leader, a 2, 3, and 4. I'll just say we're 1. So it's just like a little bit of like a buying us time. And I like that we get this title this late in the game. It kind of was like my little nitpicks on the movie we did last time, Ronin, where the movie kind of hit you with an explanation of why the movie was called Ronin. And I specifically said I didn't need that. I could have figured that out later. So then this one's way more on the nose, obviously, but it is nice. It's like, oh, the Rogue One is this crew that's going to go in and risk it all.
Yeah, totally agree. We're at a point in the movie, we know I'm fine with the title being said in the movie. You know it's coming. You know this. You're like, what's Rogue One? This is
what are
Rogue
we?
One.
Some kind of Rogue One?
Yeah, right. If they would have said that, like, we need to come up with a team name. Well, we're a bunch of rogues, and we're all one.
Say that again?
We're Rogue One. It came in a moment, like you said, of almost panic, of just like, we're Rogue One. And it's just very organic, and organic is good. Organic is always good. And they're going to go off the books, off the record, outside of the rebellion. I mean, Jin's not part of the rebellion. This crew has basically abandoned the rebellion. They hate the Empire. And they said, you know what? We're going to take things into our own hands. And we're just going to go into one of the most guarded bases of the Empire here on Scarif. And we're going to get those damn plans.
The Battle of Scarif is crazy.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's really awesome. A lot of the shots were inspired by war movies, World War II movies. I like the setting of this. I think we get a lot of cool locations in this movie. I like the overcast, rainy farm in the beginning. I like the kind of post-apocalyptic desert city of Jeddah. And I love that we go to a tropical place. I don't think we had seen that in Star Wars, at least in live action. So it just added to the uniqueness of this movie. But yeah, there's a lot of just very well executed shots and a lot of enjoyable beats to sequences. One of my favorites is when there's some AT-ATs coming in. It's very Jurassic Park-like. I love the reveal.
Did you call them AT-ATs?
Yep, they're AT-ATs. I know some people say
Really?
AT-ATs.
I'm an AT-AT man, personally. I'm a big
Well, they
time
say
AT-AT
AT-AT in
man.
the movie. There's like that alien guy. He goes, AT-AT!
I thought he was just screaming, AT-AT! I'm an AT-AT man.
The subtitles say AT-AT. AT-AT, AT-AT. I don't really care. I don't have a hill to die on.
It's like,
so thanks.
It's like a GIF versus GIF kind of thing. I was just curious. I don't judge.
Well, it seems like you're judging. When the big 4-legged thing comes in, it comes through the smoke. And of course, She-Ra is going to be the first one to sense it. And we kind of get those Jurassic booms that it's walking up. And then She-Ra looks at Baze and says, run. And then it comes out of the fog, or not the fog, I should say the gunfire smoke. There's this whole dogfight happening upstairs. This whole planet's covered by a force field. There's one way in. They're trying to close the gate. There's a blue squadron out there. And originally, the squad in A New Hope was supposed to be the blue squadron. But the blue screen was interrupting the blue colors of the X-Wings. So they changed it to Red Squadron in A New Hope because of the technology limits.
Interesting. I didn't know that. It's awesome.
So now Blue Squadron's here, and they all perish, I think. Red 5 specifically is shouted out, and he hella dies because Luke Skywalker is going to take on the Red 5 call sign in A New Hope. So he kind of fills that role later, which is fun. The coolest thing I found out, Nick, was that Gareth Edwards, I think he went, I don't know if this was at Skywalker Ranch, but he was looking at something. He's like, what's all this over here? And they're like, that's film reels from Star Wars. And he's like, oh, have people gone through it? And they're like, no, like it hasn't even been digitized yet. So he's like, oh, I would love to take a peek of like any unused footage. So they actually grabbed some unused A New Hope footage of those Rebel pilots. Because when they cut to those insert shots, I thought something looks a little different with these.
Looks a little grainy and gritty.
It looked a little vintage and filmy. So I thought, like, were they trying to emulate that? No, it's actually unused footage from the OG Star Wars. And I thought that was awesome. I thought that was cool.
I didn't know that. That is great. I was going to say, we mentioned Gareth there. You know, he was inexperienced, wasn't really part of the Star Wars lore, quote unquote, because you know how fans get about, oh, he's not part of it. He did a really good job. We talk about this all the time. We've talked about this with superhero movies, other movies, but just respecting the source material. And what a good job he did. Just got to give him a shout out for respecting the source material, respecting the fans, respecting everything done before him, and coming in and giving a great, you know, supporting piece to all of that. So shout out to him for doing something like that. That's really cool.
There's a lot of great attention to detail, and I think this movie does a good job of paying homage to the OG run with stuff like that, and including a lot of stuff that we want to see, which is banter, but it's not eye-rolling, action sequences that have actual consequences. The dogfight in the sky is pretty awesome. I haven't taken into account all of the aerial fights. I'm sure The Mandalorian has a couple aerial fights that are really cool, but I don't want to call this the best, but it's really good. I'd have to like review all of them, but I'm enjoying
it the best.
I'm enjoying the aerial sequences up above the gate, and I'm enjoying the grounded conflict of war happening down on the ground. And we get everything in this movie. We don't get a lot of lightsaber action, but we get arguably the best Darth Vader sequence in this movie at the very end, without jumping too far ahead. But we get X-Wing action, we get AT-ATs or AT-ATs, we get force-sensitive stuff going on, we get hand-to-hand. When Darth Vader's Star Destroyer comes in, I forgot what's called, the Destructor, the something, but when it jumps in through hyperspace and joins the fight, also when all the Rebel starships jump in and we get a POV of hyperspace stopping into where their point of interest was, we get everything. We get everything we want out of a Star Wars movie without it being a rehash. It's like, it's still its own thing. It's still unique. It's still paving its own way, but it is showcasing a lot of things that fans want to see.
Yeah, I think it's called the Executor, something like that. Yeah, it is. It adds a lot of weight to the fight that's already happening.
Well, that's what Google's telling me. I thought it was like the Devastator. That's what it is.
The Devastator. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, when he shows up, it just adds even more weight to the whole fight. So our squad's going to split up. Our Rogue One unit becomes Rogue Ones as individuals. We're going to have a lot of split ups. And there's a lot that needs to be done. Like you said, we got to take down the shields. We got to get the plans. We got to transmit the data. And everyone's acting on their own. And they all die.
There's no survivors. Everyone's pivotal. Everyone has a job and everyone makes a sacrifice play.
And everyone dies for this. And I think that really, I remember watching this in theaters saying like, wow, this is not a quote unquote Star Wars sort of movie where everybody is like, you're like, oh, it's the main hero. They're going to live, right?
Everybody lives. Yeah.
Everybody lives. Like, this is the Iron Man death in Endgame, right? Was so shocking because you think our heroes are always going to live. Well, we have a bunch of heroes that we have grown attached to in this crew, and they're all going to go down. They all give their life. It's this big story of sacrifice. And then you think, oh, this is the big crescendo of it all. They all gave their life to transmit these plans to the Death Star. It's over. It's fine. But James, it's not over, because we get one of the most like heart palpitating scenes I think Star Wars has ever given us here. And you'd mentioned it earlier, but this is Darth Vader.
In the kill box. It is awesome. It is awesome.
It's so good. And I think something fans have always, fans of like the comics and the books and the stories and everything have always been a little upset about is not showing just the ruthlessness and the skill and the fear of Darth Vader, right? The original trilogy, he's sort of this mystical, like, oh, I'm your father, he's the bad guy. And we sort of see Anakin in the prequels be very skilled, but obviously gets bested by Obi-Wan. But between episode 3 and episode 4, Darth Vader rules the galaxy with an iron fist, and he is the deadliest thing that's ever existed in the galaxy and is just a problem.
Yeah, this is definitely something that was missing out of Star Wars. So the villainous, the major villain factor that Darth Vader is, because he's always just showcased. He's told that he's a villain, but this is the most like ruthless he's been. He is slaughtering these rebel army men.
And power, the powerfulness, like with ease, like doesn't even break a sweat. Like this guy has harnessed the dark side, harnessed the Force, and is just absolutely killing everything in his path at a whim. It's insane. It's so good. And it is stressful. Like, I don't think many movies for me evoke a level of stress. Like I said, usually you're like, yeah, the good guy's going to win. Bad guy's not going to win. Like, oh, that fight's really cool. But, dude,
yeah, that's scary. It's scary. And they did a great job of making Darth Vader scary, because that's what he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
because he's usually just like, it's just James Earl Jones and he's just saying cool shit. But no, this one he's murdering, and he is inches away from getting those plans foiled, getting to what is revealed to be CGI young Leia Organa. We end on the movie. It says, what did they give us? And fake Leia, Fea, she says, hope. And then we're like, setting it up for a new hope. Nick, when credits roll, it is just like, wow. All of that was to carry the load of what that 2 to 3 sentences was of rebel spies acquired the plans. It's like, not only acquired the plans, they made me laugh, they made me cry, and I feel for them because they are all dead. Because the Death Star does blow up Scarif, by the way. So General Tarkin is like, yep, blow it up. I don't want the plans getting out. Let's just incinerate everybody down there. Okay. But plans still get out and our heroes prevail.
They do. And that's credits. And it ends on a hopeful note, but a little bit of a heavy note, because none of our heroes are still alive.
A new tradition. The funniest names in the credits I found were Helen Xenopoulos, Magdalena Janusinska Surma, Johnny Eagle.
That's a mouthful. Johnny Eagle.
Guy Mannerings, and don't call it a high-low, just call him Barney Shakespeare.
Probably from the Shakespeare tree, if I had to guess.
Yeah, just cousin Barney. Nick, do you have any pop the corn? Let's pop the corn. Any talking points? Talk to me.
I'm going to talk to you here. I want to talk a little bit about the timing of this movie. So, as we know, Star Wars, Lucasfilms, Disney, whoever you want to say is responsible for all this, they decided to do this really interesting thing, which I kind of wish was done a little more, where they were releasing their trilogy, right? The sequels, 7, 8, 9. They released 7, then they released Rogue One, then 8, Solo, and 9. So they were kind of giving the fans a little bit of taste here. So I want to talk about the timing, because episode 7 here is released in 2015. Rogue One comes out 2016. Do you think that this movie helped save the Star Wars franchise? Because we know episode 7 got such mixed reviews. Do you think the timing of this movie was a godsend for the Star Wars property?
Yeah, definitely like a little check for the audience. Like, hey, like we haven't lost a step yet. Like you may have not been jiving with The Force Awakens, but you're gonna love Rogue One. And the box office proves that. I'm sure when we get into these critical reviews, they'll echo that somewhat. But I think it's funny because it wasn't, well, maybe it was strategically planned, because this came from that one visual effects guy from ILM saying like, hey, I got a cool idea, I just want to pitch it to you. And then Kathleen Kennedy's like, yeah, no, I like this. So I don't know if they were planning on doing sequel movie, anthology, sequel movie, anthology, sequel movie, and so on. So maybe it just came to be and it was lucky timing. But I also think it was just Disney acquiring the rights to Star Wars, and kind of like what they were doing with Marvel. They're like, we got to pump out projects. Like after Endgame, it's like we're going TV shows and we're going more movies and Disney Plus, and we're going to interconnect it. And then it became too much, and like, you know, the quality kind of dropped off on some of those projects. And then Bob Iger's like, all right, we got to slow down on what we're putting out there. If we're going to put something out, it has to be good. So I think it was just kind of during that boom of projects. And also there's just business related stuff. There's tax incentives for shows and movies to come back to Hollywood. I'm sure this one was shot in the UK. A lot of Star Wars stuff is shot out there, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. So it's like, there's business factors, there's creative factors, but I would say it is lucky timing. If only it came out after Rise of Skywalker, you know, maybe it'd be like, hey, we didn't lose a step yet. But that's what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were trying to do with the Mandalorian verse.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it at the time. I think that's why Solo got mixed reviews, is because people were a little pissed off about episode 8 there.
Yeah. That was tough. Yeah. That was tough timing there.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I didn't do any research on if anyone else has this take, but I think Rogue One is what prompted all of the spinoffs that we're seeing today. That Disney and the Star Wars creatives were able to say, hey, we can create really good content without either A, the Skywalker saga, or B, Jedis in general. Because the only Jedis we got there at the end were Darth Vader.
And he's not even a Jedi.
Not even he's
a Sith.
You know, he dirty ass Sith. So I think that Rogue One really was the impetus for Disney to say, hey, we can create all of these side series that don't involve Jedi, right? I feel like Disney thought, oh, the secret sauce to Star Wars is the Jedi. That's not the secret sauce to the Star Wars. Star Wars is a universe that is built with canon and people and stories.
Compelling story. That's all we need.
That's all we're asking for here.
Well, speaking of compelling stories and secret sauce, I really enjoy this movie. I'm not even going to call it a hot take. I'm just going to call it the truth. This is probably the best movie that Star Wars has ever put out as a solo project, or one of the sequels. I think this is, a lot of people, Nick, think Empire Strikes Back is the quintessential Star Wars movie. I'm here to ask you, is this the best Star Wars movie? Is it better than Empire? And if it's not, why? Why are we so hung up on the past? I don't want to put this comparison out there, but it's too perfect that I kind of have to, but I kind of hate it.
Hey.
Is this like a Michael Jordan to LeBron James situation where people are so hung up on the past and they're like, it just isn't the same these days? And you're like, but I don't know. LeBron is still kind of kicking ass in his old age, and Michael never did that.
He'd never survive in this league. Yeah.
I don't want to compare Rogue One to LeBron because we're Steph Curry fans and Warriors fans, and like we kind of have a love-hate relationship with LeBron. But it's kind of a valid argument that people are so clinging to nostalgia and just they did it first. And I'm sure the reveal that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father was like a crazy twist. And they're like, this is absolute cinema. Martin Scorsese meme. But I feel like the same way with the Spider-Man movies. I feel like people are like, Tobey Maguire was the best Spider-Man. Can't fucking convince me otherwise. Go back, watch those movies.
Really? People say that?
People say that because they're hung up on, because they grew up on the Tobey movies. And if you go back and watch those movies, Tobey Maguire's acting is really bad. It's not good.
You got Toby face, dude. Toby face is a meme.
I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but he's not the best, and we got to let go of the past. So tell me, am I crazy for saying that Rogue One is my personal favorite Star Wars movie, and I think the best executed Star Wars movie?
You're not crazy for that. And I will say this, in defense of those people and in defense of you. So let me just throw two things out there, then I'll give you my thoughts here. Rogue One doesn't exist without those. So I think they get that groundbreaking benefit of the doubt there as far as setting all of this up, right? So you can almost say like, yeah, Michael Jordan kind of set the stage for this kind of NBA player to come into the league, if you want to keep with that comparison. But I think, we've talked about this on the podcast before, the whole like doing it first, do you get a little benefit of the doubt there? As far as best executed, I'm with you. I mean, I think Rogue One has every right to be in the arena and in the conversation for the best Star Wars movie ever made. Anybody who would blow it off is an idiot, right? Like it's worth having that conversation, in my opinion. In my mind, yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, if
I think you're on the right track.
It's like our Indiana Jones take. Like we favor a certain movie, but if someone favored another movie that could be just as good, it's not a thing where it's like, yeah, like I'm not going to argue with you that much. Like this is just what I think. But I do think we kind of have those goggles on of nostalgia and people just clinging to the past. And it's like, it'll never be the same. Like I enjoyed that when I was 12 in theaters and I'm an old head and nothing's ever the same. So as long as you're keeping yourself honest and accountable, and if that's how you truly feel, then I'll respect it. But if you're going to just say it because that's what everyone's saying, I'm not.
Yeah, if we go down the checklist of what we like storyline, check. Characters, check. Visuals, check. Like, when you go down the list and Rogue One hits absolutely everything. Like I said, best executed, yeah, I think they hit that. I think it's a very different movie. From some of the criticism I've seen, quote unquote, is it's not a Star Wars movie. There's not lightsabers and Force and Jedi. So, I mean, you get that kind of argument too, which is dumb. But
does that make a Star Wars movie? Do you have to have Jedi in it?
And that's the question. What is Star Wars? Right? Is it the Skywalker saga? Is that all that Star Wars? Is it this big universe where thousands of things are happening and we're telling one story and we told our story the best?
You know what? It's hard to relate to Jedi. It's easier to relate to Anakin as a human because I'm not a saint. Jedi are cool, but I like watching Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars because he was a Jedi that broke the rules and bent the rules and did what was right and didn't like conform to this religion, almost borderline cult of the Jedi. It was more compelling.
So that's kind of the crux of the conversation when it comes to Rogue One, right? Like, does the Jedi make Star Wars? Like that's really what it comes down to. And I don't want to get off on a philosophical tangent necessarily here, but like this movie is not necessarily, it's not a Jedi movie. It's not Star Jedis. It's Star Wars. And this is a war film. Like you mentioned it in the Battle of Scarif, right? And it's actually going to bring me to my next question of, is the assault on Scarif the best battle in the Star Wars universe? Yes, I think it absolutely is. And carrying on to your point here, this is a Star Wars. It's not fought by Jedi. It's fought by rebels and empires and stormtroopers and regular people. And there's a grittiness to it. And there's a lot of death. Like they never talk about that in the original Star Wars. Like, what's the death toll of the rebellion? What's the death toll of the empire? Millions of people. And we're focusing on this guy kissing his sister. And at a certain point, you're like, I get that this is the guy, but like,
and the main sequel, or in the main saga and the Skywalker saga, the people that do perish are usually just rando or X-Wing pilots that just blow up, and you're like, there goes Dak.
Yeah, there's Red Leader. He was standing by. There's
Porkins. He's standing. I think Porkins bite the dust, by the way. But yeah, this movie's has actual consequences. When Cassian and Jyn just know they're looking at a nuclear bomb in the distance caused by the Death Star, and it's like kind of somber, but it's also kind of beautiful because it looks like it's a sunset, and they embrace each other, and you're just like, man, it holds so much. Like A New Hope holds so much weight because of this movie, because it's set up how important those goddamn plans are.
That brings me to my next point here, James. Would you consider this movie retconning? And if so, are you okay with it?
Retconning? How?
Well, in
they didn't change. They didn't change the story.
They didn't change it, but they brought new information into it, right? Like they're like, oh, we're kind of backfilling it without that being part of the original intention.
Wasn't retconning like you're changing the literal origin of it? This one's just providing more information of how it happened,
So I'm using retconning very loosely here in my question, but like, are you cool with them being like, yeah, all of that? It's almost like, oh yeah, everything.
I would say like, so an example
was intentional.
An example of retconning is when we saw Solo last year, and the guy who was checking in Han into like the Imperial pilot program, he's asking for his last name, and he's like, I don't have one, and then he just says Han Solo. So in the comics or in the legends, like Han actually comes from a family surname of Solo, but in Ron Howard's Solo Star Wars movie, they retconned his origin for how he got his last name. So that would be more accurate way of describing retconning, which is like that. And we talked about that. We said fans were like, ugh, but we were like, we don't care. Like that's such a small detail. Like it's fine. This one's more filling out the backstory, and it's
unintentional backstory, right? It's unintentional.
It becomes like that, like the Marvel phenomenon with like the more rules and things you establish, the more you kind of need to hold yourself to those and make sure you don't like misinform somebody, because remember in Rogue One, this is how they got the plans, So Marvel is constantly just tying their shoestrings together with how many rules and stuff they set up. And you're just like, well, in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, technically when you dream, you're looking into a different universe version of their reality. It's like, all right, like, so now every time someone dreams, like I'm thinking about someone in the multiverse. It's like, it's great. So no, I don't. To answer your question, Nick, I am okay with this because it just gave me more vital information and showed the importance of that. And B, it was so well done. So no, I don't have an issue with it this time. And I don't have an issue with Han Solo's name being Solo because some rando guy. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either. And I'm with you. I don't care. George Lucas, you shouldn't have left so many open-ended, things in A New Hope for things to be backfilled. And this was backfilled extremely, extremely well. So, no, I have no issue with it. I did see some people online saying, oh, they just had to make an excuse for the Death Star having a weak spot. It's like, yeah, why not? Why not have it? Why not have an explanation for that?
Yeah, because that's a major problem for me in A New Hope, because you're basically
it's the biggest problem.
It's like, actually, if you just hit this random fucking spot, the whole thing's going to blow up. It's like, wow, that's pretty freaking convenient. Good for us. And then it's like you set up that bullshit ass plot device to move the Star Wars saga along, of saying like there's just a reactor you hit and that's a silver bullet. We did it. So you have an entire movie now dedicated to explaining that lazy ass writing of why the Death Star is going to go up. It's because you created this whole backstory of this Oppenheimer type character who begrudgingly built this weapon, and it was his work, and he's one of the good guys because he built a fault into it, and it's related to Jyn, and then she delivers that, and she's able to find it because it's hidden under codename Stardust, and that was her dad's nickname for it. So really personalizes it, makes it very it humanizes the story, as opposed to just like, we got the plans and guess what? You hit this miracle shot, we're good.
Yeah, I agree. It actually covers up the terrible plot holes in the existing Star Wars universe. So if anything, it helps the universe. It doesn't destroy it at all, which is a great feature of it.
People like to be mad at anything, and I did want to shout out. We get the whatever those guys are, the Cantina duo. They get a cameo of Dr. Evazan and Ponda Bava. You know, the ballsack guy face and the fucked up face guy who get mad at Luke in A New Hope. So they bump into them on Jeddah, and then I was just researching it, and people were like, "Oh, they just had to shoehorn this cameo in it." It's like, dude, it's just the fucking Cantina assholes. Like, what do you have an issue with them showing up for and doing their regular bullshit?
I'll be more careful next time. You'll be dead.
My question is, just like Max Rebo in Return of the Jedi, when he wasn't on that ship and he survived, because we see him later, I think in Boba Fett. What did he know? Did he know that Jabba the Hutt, his ship was going to get attacked? Did he know? I have a similar question about these two guys, the Cantina guys. Were they in on it? Did they know Jeddah was going to get blown the fuck up? Because they got out of there somehow and went to Tatooine.
These guys seem to be pretty connected. They seem to probably have some mob. They might be connected to the Hutts, who are pretty darn, because they're on the inside of a lot of happening in the galaxy.
I think Jeddah, if I'm going off my very sparse research and memory, I think it was mid-rim. So they pissed off to the outer rim pretty damn quickly after this, because A New Hope starts immediately as this movie ends. So they just probably were getting drunk at Jeddah, drove over to Tatooine and hit up the bar at the Cantina and just wanted to pick a fight with old Luke and crazy old Ben.
Yeah, they might have still been, Might
have still been buzzed.
Yeah, they were still buzzing. I think so. I think these guys are a little on the inside. They're kind of those career criminals who know a little too much. They're slippery sons of bitches. Yeah, but I think that's a good call. That these guys they knew too much.
I think they knew
to just be extra characters.
Did they know? Well, Nick, we're going to tell you what we know about this movie. We know it's good, and before we wrap it up, we got to hit our mini pops. Nick, we are going to actually hit each other blind, just like we do with our pre-pops now. For our awards, our regular awards of Best Weapon, Best Fighter, Most Valuable Character, and the biggest piece of shit, we're going to actually give our primary, but I also want a wild card because I think there's just too much good stuff. This movie got Arby's. There's too much good stuff, just like Arby's. But don't ever eat at the Arby's.
I was going to say, I've never heard someone say the menu's just too good at Arby's.
That's Arby's telling me there's too much good stuff. I know there's not any good things in there. All right? Don't ever eat at the Arby's.
Sponge boy me, Bob.
Yeah, Mr. Krabs?
Promise me you'll never eat at Arby's. Oh, I'm fucking dying.
Fucking dying.
Let's write down Best Weapon, reveal style via the whiteboards. We're going to show the audience, show each other on 3. 1, 2, 3. Reveal it, Nick. Nick, you said the Death Star was the best weapon of this movie, and your wildcard selection is the bow staff.
I see you said as well that the best weapon was the Death Star. I see you drew the Death Star into the A. I would want to do that. I was not very good at it. I see that. And wild card is Darth Vader's lightsaber. Yeah, that was.
Hold on. Are you talking about Shirit's bow staff?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to point that out. His light bow. I didn't know he can pull an 89 Joker on the Batwing, because just like the Joker, Jack Nicholson, when he brings out that stupid, super comically long barreled revolver and shoots down the Batwing with one shot, that light bow takes down a whole entire TIE fighter. Don't think I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was. As soon as I saw that, I went, "Whoa, that's a nominee." But the Death Star is a planet destroyer, so
yeah. No, Death Star that's a lock. That's a lock. So for our wild card, are you thinking throw a lightsaber into the gauntlet at the end, or the light bow?
I think the light bow, because a regular person can wield that better than a lightsaber. Lightsaber is very specific to these Jedi and Sith. You know what I mean? That's my thought.
Oh, you don't want a lightsaber in the end? That'd be so funny.
Give me a lightsaber. I don't care.
There we go.
I'm a man of compromise.
Let's draw up our best fighters. We'll have a primary, and then we will have a wild card. I kind of have like a substitution going on between my wild card, best fighter, and also an MBC. So I feel like if it's not one, if one's not getting one, one's going to get the other. You know what I'm saying? Because I do have multiple ideas here. If you have a best fighter nominee ready, on 3, let's show each other, show the crowd. 1, 2, 3. Nick, your best fighter is Shirit.
It is, James, for your best fighter. Yeah, Darth Vader. Hard to argue with that one. And your wild card is K2SO / Shirut. So you couldn't decide there. But I think K2SO is your underlined. That's kind of your go-to there.
So here's my thoughts. I thought Shirut was a badass, and him daredeviling and shooting down a TIE fighter. I thought that was cool. But I was thinking for the end of the year gauntlet, I feel like we kind of got to throw a big, strong droid in there, because look, K2SO might not have a lot of putting the hurt on sequences, but when he does, he lifts stormtroopers up and just throws them at other guys. He catches grenades. He tosses it behind them. He's very efficient with the blaster. So I thought it'd be cool to see K2SO in there as a wild card. And in lieu of that, my spoilers MVC just my MVC was going to be Shirut, because I thought he was the most captivating character. So either Shirut is the wild card fighter and K2 is my most valuable character, or vice versa. Nick, tell me your thoughts.
I think Shirut. I think it's for my best fighter, just simply because it's what you can do with what you're given. Like you said, he's force sensitive. He's very mysterious, and I think he's capable of a lot more than what we saw. He survived this long in Jeddah for a reason.
Our crossover is Shirut, so I think he has to be our best fighter. And Nick, I think our wild card has to be Darth Vader. He killed so many men so efficiently.
I mean, yeah, he really did. And I think one of the biggest problems here that we're going to run into is that I don't think he's beatable unless
someone pulls the Death Star.
Unless somebody pulls the Death Star, yeah.
Hey, you know what? We always got the horror movies coming up. They're mysterious bastards over there.
Yeah, we got to hope for something good there.
All right, Nick. Well, let's hit each other with our most valuable character. I don't have a wild card for this. All right, let's reveal on 3. 1, 2, 3. Show the crowd. Nick, I can't see it. Move it over closer to the center. Oh, it's K2SO. I also wrote K2SO. He's one of my favorite characters in this movie. Shirut is a fan favorite for me as well. But man, K2SO is just so funny and is so useful and makes a lot of good plays and is a good inverse of a C-3PO.
It's hard to have any flaws when you're programmed to be the best. And I'll just say that. I mean, he's a ride or die. He always shows up, like you said, comic relief there, and also just an amazing fighter. Just great. He's a great addition to this movie. I'm into it. K2SO, MVC.
All right, Nick, on 3, let's reveal our answers for the biggest piece of shit of this movie. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Nick, you are showing Orson Krennic as your primary, and you're showing a wild card of Saw Gerrera.
And James, I see there, General Tarkin is.
Let me tell you why. Director Krennic is obviously an annoying guy for us people rooting for the good guys. He's leading up the Death Star plans. He kidnaps Galen Erso, but man, General Tarkin just like takes the credit for all of that to Darth Vader. He's like, and Krennic is like, dude, this is my work and I want the glory, which is a little bit of a big piece of shit move. But man, he's just willing to wipe that away from Krennic and just kind of like claw his way to the top in Vader's eyes. So I was going to go Krennic, but I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not married to it, but just throwing it out. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think Krennic is the first one who kind of he's trying to climb that corporate imperial ladder. Really is what he's trying to do. So he kidnaps Galen Erso. He tries to say this is my whole thing. He's lying, manipulating, killing just to get ahead. And then he's kind of like whining to Darth Vader like a little bitch, trying to get in his favor. It's very just like I hate it. I hate it. I see Tarkin's thing. He's trying to get in good graces. But Krennic he's just so whiny about it, right? He's just such a little bitch that I hate him. I think he's a big piece of shit.
I'm not gonna. I won't argue with that. I think Krennic is fine, but why Saw? I know he's crazy. And he's got a lie detecting octopus in the basement, but what the hell, Nick?
Yeah. So he really what got me was that he kind of raised Jyn, and then he abandons her. He abandons her because he sees it's just this nut job. And then, it's the mind reading octopus thing with Bodhi, where he's basically like going to kill him with this thing, like scramble his brain before even listening to him. He's just kind of like, he seems like a wild card that he really could have disrupted this whole movie because he's just kind of shitty. And so he was my wild card of being like, dude, what are you doing here?
All right, Nick, that's going to do it for our awards. And we are going to wrap up the Pop the Corn session with our sarcastic selling points, transitioning into our final review. Nick, I'm going to hit you first with my sarcastic selling point. I said an actual war movie set in space.
Yeah, I kind of went in the same vein. I said that this is Space Black Hawk Down.
Final review. Fight.
All right, Nick, final review time. We're going to get into what the other guys think of this movie, and then we'll get into what we think of it, most importantly. That's why you're here. We're going to start out with Rotten Tomatoes. The critics, 84% of the critics like this movie. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and just a touch above for the people, coming in at 87%.
And Nick, you touched upon it earlier. Those goddamn Metacritic nerds, they're giving this a 65. A 6.5 on the popcorn scale. What are we doing here, guys?
What? I don't understand these people sometimes, but at least the people gave it a little higher. I wished a little more, but they came in at a 7.6.
All right. Good for those fans. Always bringing us up. And now
for our Rogue One. Death Star gunning. Rebel running. We're having fun. And wait.
No.
Everyone died.
Score.
From IMDb, a 7.8.
Oh my gosh. Nick,
Call us the Rogue One, man.
We were just playing one there. Nick, you have a huge load to bear. You're going in the Scarif first. You were hitting the ground first because you got to hit me and the audience with your laughable log line, your popcorn points, and just your final thoughts on this movie.
Absolutely. Well, you know how I handle big loads, so this is going to go great. James, I went ahead and said a blind monk, a sassy droid, and a bunch of space orphans commit the galaxy's most heroic group project. James, I think I'm going to stick with my original answer here. This is a 9.0 for me. This is a fantastic one. I think this would probably be the highest rated Star Wars movie I would give, I would assume. It's great. We went over this a lot in Plot Talk. The attention to detail, the careful handling of the source material, the casting, and then, what we talked about a little bit more, which is this isn't really a Star Wars movie. It's a war movie set in the Star Wars universe. And I think they understood that when they went into this movie. It's called Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. And I think you could have just called this Rogue One, not had Darth Vader in it. And this could have been a non-Star Wars property. This movie stands alone by itself extremely well. If you did not know Star Wars at all, you could watch this movie and have a fantastic time. And I think that is a really lost art when it comes to movies that are a part of the same universe or shows that are part of the same universe, is these things still have to stand up on their own. And Rogue One does that. It has its own story, its own characters, its own developments, and it tells this little snippet of this world that we've been so involved in. And we're so involved in these characters that we've known for 30 plus, 40 plus years. And now we're getting to see this other side of it. And it's beautiful. It's done really well. The characters are great. And there's this gravitas to it. There's, not to get too philosophical, but there's a theme and a moral to it, which is there is a greater sacrifice than yourself. And I feel like a lot of Star Wars movies don't necessarily have that. There's good in everybody and we'll all win as long as we're working together and we're doing the right thing. And this movie kind of shows, no, there's a lot of sacrifice behind the scenes that has happened in the Star Wars universe and in every universe, right? There's these small stories that people give their lives for the greater good, and they don't make it out on the other side. And they impact the whole story, the whole universe. And it's beautifully done. It's beautifully told. It's wonderfully acted. And it's just a solid 9.0. And I'll go back to one of your talking points earlier. The more I sat on it and thought about it, yeah, I think this is the best Star Wars movie that's ever been made. Easy 9.0 from me.
Easy work from the corn dog himself. Let's see if I'm going to jump off the ledge with you, buddy. Because my laughable log line is a group of rogue rebels become one badass heist squad.
And said Nick, the thing.
I don't know. Nick, I mean, good luck jumping off the cliff there. But you don't need luck because you have me. And I'm with you, buddy. I'm your Baze to your Sheerat. Because, Nick, I have to hit this with a 9.0. That was my instantaneous gut reaction. I didn't want to have a bias coming in, but I thought, I was like, this could be, I don't hand out nines a lot. This could be up there. And watching this movie, it's the best executed Star Wars movie I've ever seen. And like you said, even if you strip the Star Wars stuff away from it, it's just a good movie. It's got a great message. It's got a great theme, like you said. It's a lot of people, and they have their own story arcs. There's this little subtle story arc between Baze and Sheerat, where Sheerat's very spiritual and religious, and Baze is kind of just like, I'm a shoot first, ask questions later. And then by the end of it, we see the sacrifice that Sheerat made, and then Baze kind of goes down in the similar way, saying like, I'm gonna let faith guide my way, because it seems like he's been a guy that lost his faith, and he's now praying and doing what he was making fun of Sheerat doing earlier. Cassian, as you watch Andor, it's just gonna build up more of his character arc in this movie, because he comes in very untrustworthy, not sure of everybody. Sheerat has a line directed at him saying like, have you been in a prison like this before? It seems like the prison that you're in like is the type that you take with you wherever you go. Saying like he's got some mental barriers, and he has some emotional shields that he throws up, and he's got to learn to trust people. And Jin has one of the biggest story arcs, and one of my favorite lines in this movie, I didn't even shout out during plot talk, I wrote it down in my notes. When Jin meets up with Saw Gerrera, Saw, despite being a crazy person, he's on the right side of the fight. He's an extremist, and when you are trying to fight for something that is right, sometimes you get a little bit too carried away, and you become a dangerous person. You become a borderline terrorist, and that's what Saw Gerrera is. And Jin is just like, I don't want to have anything be a part of this. Like, you abandoned me. Like, the Empire sucks. Like, I just want to live my life and die. So her mantra is that in the beginning. So when they meet up, Saw says,
you can stand to see the Imperial flag reign across the galaxy.
It's not a problem if you don't look up.
Which is a horrible thing to say. That's like, hey, there's a problem, but it's not gonna be a problem if I don't make it a problem. So she has the biggest character arc, I would say, in this movie. And that's always good when your main character has the biggest character arc and not like a random side character. But all the side characters go through a character arc of some sort of way. But hers is good because she started out kind of under the Empire's watch, and her dad is kidnapped. Her mom was murdered because of the Empire. So she's like a beaten down kid who got dragged into this life and is just tired. And then it's really through the love that she has for her dad, and her dad standing up for what's right. Cause he's like, look, I know I'm risking my life doing this, but I did put a fault in the Death Star plans, and cause fuck these guys. And then, so when he dies and they have one last moment together, dying in each other's arms, she sees that and she's like, you know what? Yeah. Like you said, Nick, some things are bigger than yourself. So if you were to ask me like, what's wrong with this movie? And I'm struggling to give you answers to that question, I don't think I can rest easy giving it anything less than a 9, because there's no reason to. It's visually stunning. The action sequences are great. The acting is great. The casting, the performances. And Nick, all the shitty movies that we watch, I think we have high expectations of movies. And I think we forget that it's really hard to make something that's not only decent, but great. There's a lot of effort in filmmaking that needs to come from everybody, from costume people, from set design, art department, writing, actors, visionaries. It's hard to do. So I think we take that for granted these days. And this movie doesn't do anything bad in my eyes.
Yeah, and not just great when the expectations, when you stamp a Star Wars story on it and the pressure is up there to compete against what we have previously described as unrationally rabid fans, is even more impressive to me. You know, there's a lot of times people fold under the pressure and just go, we're just going to do fan service and hope for the best. And for me, it bumped the score up to know you stamped a Star Wars story on this and you still went and said, nah, man, we're going to create our own story here. So just big kudos to Gareth and Felicity and Diego, the whole crew, everybody. Just
Gareth Edwards came out of nowhere, casually dropped the best Star Wars movie, and then bounced. Basically, homeboy came in, he said, bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on you won't understand. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's all you need to say.
And that's all we have to say about Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the GOAT, apparently, according to Just Play It. And we thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Please follow us. Please tune in, listen, watch, get at us, because we are at Just Play It Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. We are at Just Play It Pod on X, aka Twitter. And we're here for you. We'll be here for you next time as well, because we'll check in with a phantom menace to society. Nick?
I think you just said it.
I didn't say anything. I said the phantom menace.
Yeah, I just think, you know, if there's somebody who's going to be a problem to civilization, it'll come up in this movie. That's all I'll say.
This movie had 1 in it, and the next movie's going to have 2 in it. And I think you have plenty of evidence to figure out what's going on there. We're going to be heading gone. And remember, if you make a plot hole 40 years ago, just be rest assured that some guy named Gareth is going to come in, patch that hole for you, and just casually give you the best piece of Star Wars in your lap. He has a lie detecting octopus in his basement.
If you had a lie detecting octopus, would you not use it